pretty cool.
It's a cool thing. Okay, as a start, would you mind just saying and spelling your name?
Sheila Payne, Sheilapayne.
Okay, and just briefly before we get to talking about the campaign, if you could just give me kind of a thumbnail sketch of where you're from, where you grew up, how you ended up here in Gainesville, how long you've been here.
Let's see, I was born in Homestead, Florida. Went to the Evergreen State College in Washington State after deciding UF was too big for me. And my favorite state is North Carolina, where Paul was at Duke. And then we were at UCSC, Paul was at UCSC, Santa Cruz, California, and we came back to Gainesville because he was kind enough to find a job in the South so I could take care of my mom who had Parkinson's. So we have lived here for a year and 2 months.
Okay. And so you had really just arrived back here in Florida around the time that the campaign was starting.
Yeah, I started actually the first week. It was a blessing because I wanted to get the post office. I had to take early retirement. There's a permanent hiring freeze permanent for now. So while I was looking for work, I started volunteering 4 days a week, walking.
So you were a postal worker here?
For 24 years, before we got here.
Okay.
And when they told me that I had tried for a year, now you have to apply online. I applied to like 80 post offices within a year. I mean, hours travel time, and it's the first time I've been able to make 2 other moves. With my record, I was able to transfer, but even though they begged DC to let me work for them here, there was a hiring freeze.
When did that go into effect?
That was actually in Florida. It was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Paul had already taken the job here. He stayed in Santa Cruz for a year after he accepted the job here, so it was too late at that point for me to... And it never occurred to me that I actually would not be able to get a job. I was offered a job, but I'd already accepted the early retirement.
Okay.
It's the first time in the 25 years I was with the post office that they had offered it. So I feel fortunate. I have a small pension.
So the hiring freeze there, that's a nationwide thing? But it's administered state by state, or how does that work?
No, it's nationwide, but here it had already been in effect for a year within a 500-mile radius because they had implemented a flat sorting machine in Tennessee, and so they already were stopping. And actually, I was offered a job a few months after I got here. Well, no, about 6 months. My old postmaster, kept me on unpaid leave after I ran out of annual leave, so that I could stay on the rolls and either get a job or be eligible for the early retirement. So
wow,
that was lucky because it kept him from being able to do anything. Made his roles look bigger than they were. But yeah, it's been a shock.
Yeah, because
that was the best. So now, from making $24 an hour, actually I've always made more than Paul because the year after I had brain surgery, I actually worked 70-hour weeks, and I always have worked at least 60. So I like that. I like being really active. So anyway.
Okay, so you arrive here in Gainesville. What month is it? It's
July.
July of 2008.
Yeah, they had just started cranking up here.
Okay, and you got involved with
the first week
with
the Obama campaign.
Was in Florida? Was Clinton still in the picture at that point, or had it been decided? I mean, did you work during the primary, or were you already working on the general election? Okay.
The primary.
Okay, so you entered through the Obama
definitely.
organization, not the Democratic Party.
No,
yeah. Okay.
No. And as a matter of fact, I mean, the Democratic Party, I mean, it's pretty cool here, but it's like Democratic parties most places. You know, they love the political part. They don't really, I mean, candidate no matter what. And of course it's like you try to help out.
Yeah.
Even though you may not agree with everything. I actually am really impressed with Obama. I was then. I just read the first book he wrote about his dad and organizing, and that's why I like him. It's not even his policy positions, because who knows if he can implement them. It's like the whole healthcare debate, and whether, who knows if he's going to be able to get anything passed, or, I think he's brilliant, and I also appreciate that he was an organizer, and that's how he set up the campaign too. The only other campaigns I've spent so much time on were more local ones, like city council, and the other stuff I've always liked the going the door and talking to people thing, but this was like really brilliant in the way, the internet, for instance, I got tired of going to the office and waiting for someone to give me my assignment every day. So I would just pull it off of the internet and, the walking map and who they wanted me, the doors they wanted me to go to. And then I could just, when I got home, enter the information after I got home in the evening. And they downloaded that every night. So that was pretty cool. And I know that's a nationwide.
And that was run from Chicago?
Yeah, they had all the information. I went to them. I don't like some of the stuff I didn't like. Do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I didn't like that. The big thing was going into neighborhoods and just seeing McCain signs. It's because locally, and it was a national decision. They were selling the signs as a fundraising, all the money that he was bringing in, that the campaign was bringing in. And I know it wasn't just about money. It was, if you want a sign, then you have to be willing to pay for it. But, I'm going out anyway, and a lot of people wanted signs, and it would have been easy for me. I think visually, especially in a conservative area, it's important to see what your neighbor, the sign they have, and I would go into... Most of the neighborhoods I did were in the Northwest. I think part of that was they knew I was more familiar since I was new here, but I also think it was the East Side, mostly predominantly black neighborhoods. They put black people there, and neighborhood people that those people would know from their communities. And Pat McCullough ran that. I was dying to get over there, but they wanted me over here, so... it was a bummer, especially in the rural areas, going down major highways.
So how far out of Gainesville proper did you go?
I pretty much stayed. I stayed. I went on the east side part of the way, but mostly I stayed in neighborhoods. They had me going out towards rural, but no. Like I really wanted to go to Hawthorne or Alachua. I really wanted to go the more conservative, and they had people already there, so it was. You did what you were told, so I was happy to do that. I actually hit a lot of houses, a lot of neighborhoods several times. So first they were having us go out and poll, which I also kind of bummed me out because. If I am going to get somebody at home, it would be good to engage them. But they really wanted just to know who they were voting for. It was a check off. There's like 12 things that you were looking for. One of them was, how are you leaning? It was the whole leaning thing. And I understand that early in the campaign. And, he won. It was a brilliant campaign. But still, the few times, especially as students, it's not like I thought I could be so persuasive. I think it's important just having someone knocking on the door. I think people, if they know there's a lot of people out there who are willing to give their time, I think that can make a difference.
Right. So in your we're talking about from July till early November, you're doing that whole time in kind of different phases of the campaign. Did you ever get a chance to really have conversations with people about issues and their ideas about the election?
Yeah, mostly the students were really wanting to talk about it. And again, I don't feel like I'm that persuasive. And the other thing is, we didn't have a lot of literature until late in the campaign. I kind of felt being involved with more local elections like city council, it was important to leave literature so they know that you were there. They didn't want to do that. And it was later in the campaign they realized that it was important to give people some kind of talking points, some kind of, stuff to rebuke the stuff that was coming out that the Republicans were saying. But yeah, especially the students wanted to engage. I met up with a lot of male students, and it was kind of frightening.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, assault weapons was a big deal. You would not believe how many 19-year-old men who are students at UF, the first thing they say is, he's going to take away, my assault weapon. I said, oh, do you have an assault weapon? They're like, well, no, but if I ever need one. And that was surprising. It was like very one issue. I don't know, there were such big ideas in the campaign. It seemed like the young people would pick one issue. If they were for Obama, it was just big, I think he's wonderful. And if they were against, there was usually one issue like assault weapons, Or I was really struck by, and I kept trying to think about, I would talk to Paul about it if I was just, being prejudiced against what I was hearing. But I was really struck by, this is the first area that I've helped in campaigns where the students really voted the way their parents raised them. And being in other doing it in other areas of the country where students were kind of challenging the way they were raised or thinking about different ways. Here, it was really apparent that they were going to vote the way their parents voted.
So you ran into significant numbers of conservative students?
Yeah, a lot. I would say people my age, 52, were for Obama, that were Democrats. At the beginning, they had us just knocking on Democratic doors. And then sometimes there would be Republicans. They told me don't go to them, but I went anyway because I was out there so much that I wasn't going to keep passing by doors. And Republicans were really slamming the door, kind of, don't come back here, ardently against Obama.
Did you get any observations about the way that race was playing in the election?
I think so.
Well, I mean, we all think so. But
I definitely, when I would go up, especially, again, my age, people were really happy about Obama. I swear, when I knocked on the door of older white women, they would have this kind of waffling, oh, I'm not sure. These were people from my list who were registered Democrat, had voted for years, as far as I knew, Democratic. And they said they just didn't think they could vote for him. And when I tried to talk about issues, they would get sometimes agitated, I just can't talk about it. And I think it was about race. I do, because they didn't want to engage in, any of the issues. They just said, I just can't vote for him. So
Obama ends up winning the county. Does anybody know what those people did? Did they come back to the Democratic Party, or did Obama lose them? What's your sense of that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they came back, but I do know that I worked the polls election day. I was in a rural area, actually at the county farmers market, and there was a lot of early voting, but there were a lot of Democrats who just, in that precinct where I was, who just didn't show up. And I know that they didn't vote early, and a lot of them were older, because it's a more elderly population. It was away from the student population, and a lot of them just, it's good they chose, for me, that they chose not to vote, but I think they chose to just not vote.
They just sat out.
Yeah.
It's that polling work that you did you still feel the kind of the clouds of the 2004 and the 2000 elections hovering over those polling sites? I mean, since Florida has been such a site of contest over the last couple election cycles, did you get a sense of that as being relevant to people, or is that just kind of past history at this point?
Well, I know that I was very impressed with the election officials here. They were here, the ballots, you did get to see them. And I was very impressed how carefully they were to make sure everything was done correctly. I think people are aware of it, but I think it's more southern Florida where a lot of the big issues were. I did not hear a lot of people talk about, well, my vote doesn't count anyway. I know that it's all, which when we were living in California, there was a lot of discussion about that. You know, people, I was amazed at how many people, since Paul's a historian and I've read the records, you know, I've been in the archives also. There's a lot of history of people's votes not counting. You know, a lot of people, African Americans, their votes have always been stolen, and it was like a wake-up call for other people that, like, wow, does it count or not? But no, I didn't hear people really concerned. There was abstract stuff on the internet, but I didn't hear people locally talking about, is my vote going to be stolen?
Right.
But, you know, the other thing, the positive thing is, at the polls, there were a lot of African Americans, I'd say in their 30s, that were frantically looking. They had moved, not changed where they were to vote. They hadn't gone, and they were frantically doing everything. They showed up the day of, and they had not voted for so many years. They weren't on the rolls, and they were frantically. The election commission was doing everything they could to get people, you know, help them to be able to vote that day. But there were a lot of people who had not voted in years that were showing up, and that was amazing. And it was African Americans in their 30s.
So based on your experience canvassing, you were surprised that Obama took this county?
Yeah, I was nervous about it, and especially with the students. You know, I mean, it's who's at home. I went all times of day and the weekends. You know, who is at home. They were really pushing in the Obama office a lot of phone canvassing. They had a lot of people in there canvassing. I did some of that from home. I don't like that as much as going the door. And then they realized the last 3 weeks that the response they got, they could make 10 phone calls in the same time I went to a door, but the response they got was way greater if you go to the door, because people just don't answer the phone. So they were really pushing getting people out on the street at that point. But what was the question?
Well, so then it sounds like, from your experience talking to people face to face in your canvassing, that you probably haven't been surprised by the kind of hatred that's been spilling out in the recent months, which, you know, if you live in a place like New York City or New Haven, Connecticut, it's taken a lot of us by surprise. I mean, it was kind of naive of us, I suppose, but it's been shocking to see what's been happening around the country, or these tea parties and the healthcare debate and just the way. So can you talk a little bit about how that has looked to you kind of on the ground here in Gainesville in the months since the election?
Well, I really resent they're using Saul Alinsky's book to organize those. It's like, hey, that's our book. But yeah, you know, you have to say, wow, at least they learned something from the campaign. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. I really feel like people are so disengaged with partisan politics that it was always about race with him. You know, I thought the debates were amazing. I felt he showed just how much more together and smarter he was, but here, you know, people didn't really want, except for the students would want to engage. I had some Republican men who would want to engage for a long, you know, they would want to talk for half an hour about why they couldn't vote for him. And, you know, they talked about distrust. They felt like the stuff they were getting from Fox News, was the real deal about him. I feel like distrust was a code word for race too. And no, I'm not surprised. I think everybody, and I think Obama always, people are always going to use race, whether he's, if he fails in anything, that he just didn't quite have it. I think it was always, and his background too. I think it's class also. I think it's class, not just his race. No, people were pretty adamant. I had people like slam the door. It wasn't a lot because people are polite in this community, but they just, like one man who lived with his 2 sisters were going to vote for Obama, and he was just so angry about it and just was like yelling at me in a kind of a polite way. Like he wanted to make sure I knew that it wasn't me. He, understood why I was out there. But yeah, he definitely thought that Obama, he identified him as a socialist then, that he was going to take away everything from the country, and yeah.
Huh. Oh, there's the mail.
Yeah. Take me with you.
You mentioned Saul Alinsky. Can we just go back a little bit and talk about some of the earlier organizing work that you've done? Because it sounds like you have quite a background in that.
Well, it was, I worked in the fields growing up, so I met Cesar Chavez when I was 15. I heard him speak. He came to where we were working.
What fields? What kind of fields are we talking about?
Tomato fields in Homestead and other strawberry.
Homestead is where?
Florida.
No, I knew that.
Florida.
No, but where? What part of Florida?
Oh, southern, right above the Keys.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot of that farming has, I was just talking to my dad on the phone about it, it's, even in Florida they can't compete with Mexican tomatoes anymore, but yeah, so that's what changed my life. And Paul and I met organizing farm workers in Washington State. We were it was an 8-year campaign. So mostly it's been labor and some, well, the group that I was working with when we started doing the farm worker organizing had been together a long time doing Central America work and anti-poverty work. So I'd say that most of my organizing has been some foreign affairs, just like Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which Santa Cruz has a really radical group. I was surprised there's not one here. But so mostly around labor work issues.
Right. The workers in Washington State, those are Apple?
No, it's an Apple campaign now. No, it was Chateau Saint Michel.
Oh, the winery.
Yeah, which somebody should write a book about
grapes.
that.
So right when you were a kid, that's what.
Right, yeah. Which that boycott is over. No one was aware of it anymore. And so a couple of years ago, my son had never eaten a grape in his life because he grew up we didn't have grapes.
That was one of the first kind of political moments that I remember.
Well, what was really beautiful is that when we were successful, almost every restaurant, like Seattle, Olympia, the half of Western Washington, we were able to get the wines off the ferries, out of the restaurants. A lot of grocery stores wouldn't carry it anymore. And people really honored the farm worker flag. That really meant, even though a lot of places we weren't asking people to boycott the restaurant. Actually it was an independent campaign. It was the farm workers there who had been trying for years to organize, and it only affiliated with UFW at the very end when it came time to negotiate contract. And that's when we kind of lost a little bit of, the workers lost a little bit of autonomy of how they were going to run the campaign. But we saved a bunch of the papers. There's boxes and boxes in Olympia in storage because somebody needs to write. It was a beautiful campaign.
And when was that?
That was, Paul, I have to tell you.
Okay. And the grape workers?
In the 90s. But I'm not.
The grape workers at that point, was it Mexican labor mostly?
Yeah, Latino labor. And Chateau Ste. Michelle had been bought by the whole group of wines had been bought by U.S. Tobacco, and to kind of spruce up their image, there's a beautiful. Have you ever been there? There's
the
chateau.
No.
Yeah. Oh, there's a beautiful chateau that's on the bottles, and I think it was because obviously, maybe to diversify their holdings, but it's so small that it had nothing to do with economics. But they had like a music series, and we had workers out there. We would pick, and it was like 4 hours from Western Washington, where the main Caucasian organizers were, the Seattle area, where we were based, and we mostly worked on the consumer boycott side of it. And then later in the campaign, we would go over and stay and go into the camps and talk to the workers about it. But and that was when we were gearing up for the Apple campaign, which was going to be way different. Because, it's easy to ask people to choose a different wine.
Mm-hmm.
And, they feel kind of guilty about all the wine they're drinking. But to ask them to not eat apples and stuff was... So, yeah, it was a beautiful campaign. It lasted 8 years from the time that... It had been going on for a long time. The workers had tried at different times. But what was interesting is that winery, the bottlers... The inside workers were represented by the Teamsters, who tried to raid the workers, raid the union right at the end when they were getting ready, when we were breaking the company. But they had always been union, but they refused to allow any of the Latino workers. They were not going to negotiate with, Mexicans or Latino workers, and they were never promoted to inside. So it was the white workers were inside, represented by the union. So yeah, it was beautiful. We had people went up to Connecticut where the stockholders meetings were. We had nuns, all the typical campaign. We would go and do Christmas caroling at the CEO's house, his blockaded house, and it was really beautiful. We had, the first year we did it in Olympia at a big food and wine festival. The Columbia Crest gave like $500,000. It was a Catholic college for this food and wine festival, and because the CEO was Catholic and stuff. And of course people were outraged. This is for scholarships for the students and stuff. And the first year we had 8 people that helped pick it. By year 5 and 6 we had 300-400 people just lined up, just picketing. So it was a great campaign.
What was the most challenging aspect of that work in those Washington campaigns?
Well, I guess the workers, because of course they were under the scrutiny. Most of them were undocumented. We had to be careful that they weren't, were not arrested. There was quite a few arrests during the 8 years of that campaign. And I'd say the challenge was for them to not be afraid of being blacklisted and, staying strong. So, but for us, I guess it was to keep the momentum. The thing is, like our group, it actually started during the first Gulf War. So would that have been 81? 91. Yeah, so it was a group. At one point we had a couple hundred people come to meetings during the first Gulf War, strategizing. That group became Olympia Movement for Justice and Peace. There was probably 30 people who were really actively involved and stayed actively involved. They've been together on other campaigns, and that was the group that really worked on the farm worker. But it kept the group alive because we had stuff to do. And that's what I wanted to say about the Obama campaign too. They were very smart about always having stuff for people to do. Even the very end, last couple of days, people really didn't need to go hit those houses again. But it was a way to make them feel like they were doing something. And I think that's a key people don't want to keep showing up. It's like the farm worker campaign. Every week, some people would show up at the grocery stores, and they came because they knew other people were going to be there. It's pouring down rain. We're getting soaked because we weren't allowed near the front of the store, as an example. And, people showed up because they knew other people were going to be there. And the Obama campaign was really good about having something for everybody to do. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that because there's a lot of things. I've been volunteering at one of the volunteering stuff I've been doing is at the food bank, and even if you call and they say they need you and then you show up, they never have it together. And so people who are busy or middle class or whatever, they want to get the stuff done. They don't want to hang out. So the Obama campaign was really smart here locally about making sure they had stuff so people felt involved.
Like they were doing something
real.
Yeah.
To the very end. So, it kind of bums me out though. I was hoping there was a lot of issues that I cared about. The big global issues I care about, like the war, but I feel less able to do. If you can get 1 million people in March, like during the Bush campaign, and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, Paul says historically it slows down the momentum of what's going to happen, I'm not sure if that happened during all that anti-war stuff, which was really beautiful. But, what was I saying? It's like, I know he has to focus. It's like he's going to be, the Obama administration is going to be so sucked into what's happening in Afghanistan and stuff, which, has kept, those kind of issues have kept so many administrations from being able to move forward. That, it's like card check is really important. That was why labor people came out, Mm-hmm. I mean, Obama promised that there would be some kind, who's going to do it now? You can't even get those issues. And I don't know, it may not happen anyway with the mess that, Win for Change and SEIU and stuff, maybe it's just such a mess, labor now. But, mm-hmm. I mean, there's working in Latino communities, like in Santa Cruz, I did a lot of, I did literacy work with, like Latino women so they get better jobs and stuff, and worked in a after school program with kids, tutoring them and stuff. And, labor issues are just so important. Like other people, more intellectual people, like, even though she's a labor historian, it's like everything is not labor, but really, a lot of it has to do with dignity of work. I grew up that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's not, I organize in the fields because it really is true that if you don't have a bathroom in the fields, that's like such a small thing mm-hmm. to keep people, have people feel, have dignity. And that's what farm workers talk about. It's not about pay. It's about how I'm treated. Am I going to be paid for the hour I'm driving to get to where I'm working? Am I going to be sprayed? Can I ask for a mask, without feeling like I'm going to lose my job? And, there's so many issues. I was hoping that the Obama administration, healthcare, right. Don't you think it's been eye-opening that I feel like he's so smart about, I don't think he's surrounded himself with the best economic advisors. Jesus. They've already had their chance. Come on. But, like the healthcare thing. And then it just shows, I actually recently talking to young people, like we've been doing anti-war and pro-healthcare reform pickets every week and informational pickets. And young people are really discouraged because they can see that the intent is there to transform the healthcare system, and that the bureaucracy of Congress and making deals, I think it's going to have a really detrimental effect on young people getting involved next time.
If this just devolves into politics as usual.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, as an organizer, what's your response to, one of the critiques of Obama has been that that he seems to have demobilized his huge kind of grassroots organization in a way that the right didn't. So you have these tea parties and you have all this kind of weird street level stuff going on the right, and there's really nothing to kind of counter it or match it.
Well, see, I don't agree. I mean, so you have the change like that Pat McCullough's involved with. What's it called? But it's the organization that's still organizing for Obama and trying to get people out. And then you have, Move On, which does everything on the internet. There's a really active group locally. I don't like the way they do it. You have to sign up. They don't do local issues. They decide what people are going to work on. Mm-hmm. But they've been getting people out. So I don't think, and I'm not sure you think, I don't know how many people really think that that's like grassroots organizing. I don't care how many people NPR,
right.
Interviews, they say, oh yeah, I just came on my own. It's all, media mm-hmm. getting them out. And I think it's good that they're going, I don't want to begrudge that they're willing to come out to, mass tea parties and stuff. I don't think it's grassroots organizing at all.
Right.
I think it's all the media getting them out. I think, Fox News again, it's not just Fox News, but, they have the same equipment that the left does. A lot of it is by the internet, mm-hmm. Get out. I don't think it's grassroots. And what does that mean that we're grassroots? I mean, I don't think Move On is supposed to be grassroots.
Right.
I had a big meeting in my house. People wanted to talk. It was to try to, about 6 months ago, Move On wanted to urge green jobs. So we were all going to, and a lot of people showed up. Mm-hmm. But then they wanted to, there was no strategy. The person facilitating did her best. She had great ideas. We're going to break down into small groups. I don't think Move On is effective that way. I think they can get all of us, they can tell us, okay, Friday the 13th, we're going to go and stand on a street corner to hold signs about healthcare reform. But, I was like emailing the person in charge of Florida and saying, we have these issues happening in Gainesville. We want to do this stuff. We want to use that email list. Mm-hmm. I have phone, we want a phone bank. And they're like, no, we decide.
Yeah.
We decide what you're going to work on. So,
right.
And I think it's the same way with the Tea Party. And
yeah, clearly. Although it looks like something different from the outside. But.
Well, I think there could be local groups,
uh-huh.
who are saying, oh, let's do this. And I think somebody else is deciding, what those tea parties are going to look like or
mm-hmm.
where they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's any different than the way we're doing right now.
Uh-huh.
And I think like the Obama campaign, the grassroots, which is, I don't know if it's grassroots since, that's why I want you to talk to Pat, because she knows the organization. Even though I know she was at a picket a couple of weeks ago for healthcare reform, that a couple of TV stations showed up, and she would not be interviewed because she's not allowed to be as a representative unless she gets the message.
Uh-huh.
So,
that's interesting.
We all have to do what, UFW did the same thing when we were actually working for them. It really changed, and I love them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think it's grassroots. I don't know what to do. It's like here. Okay, so I've never been that interested. I've only been here a year, so I'm still finding. We just started going to Veterans for Peace meetings, and they're more like, not that they're organizing any better, mm-hmm. but their lifestyle is more akin to what like people on the street are kind of upper middle class.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're Democrats and they're progressives, but they're not.
They're from a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think. I'll just tell you. I hope you don't teach. I don't think people should teach about class unless they've actually held a job, they were wage slaves. You know, like at UCSC, there's people in Paul's, and that's just my opinion after, you know, being around them a long time and sitting in on some classes. I just think people can't teach about class intellectually. I think you have to, you know, what can you teach about race? Should Paul be, I don't know, should he be teaching about African Americans? I think he does a good job, so maybe what I'm saying is full of crap, but yeah.
Let's come back to the local just for a second. We started out with the Postal Service and the hiring freeze. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the economic situation here in Gainesville and maybe in the longer run, since you were in Florida much earlier and now you're back, like just economically, kind of how do you see what's gone on in this neck of the woods?
Well, here in Gainesville, I have to compete with young students, you know. But of course, they're not able to do some of the jobs that I just got hired to drive this school bus, and you know they probably couldn't do that. So I'm still more able to do other jobs that they're not. But I see people. There's a high crime rate here. It's like, dude, if you can't get a job, you gotta eat, you know. And it's like going back to the assault weapon thing. Digressing again. This year I got my teaching certification from Santa Fe College. It was community college, and for people who already have bachelor degrees, it's an accelerated program. And there was this woman in my class who was delightful. She was probably 25, and she would always try to bring up how you better go and get enough guns and bullets. And people are really afraid. You know, she was stockpiling bullets in case you need them, because there's gonna. And just this week, my dad, who does listen to Fox News, was telling me, and lives in Alabama, Sheila, you know, people, and actually I heard somebody else, and it was on the picket line, and I can't remember who they were. People are going to need to grow gardens, and they better have guns, because people are going to be rampaging because they're going to be hungry. So I hear it here. You know, that's why hopefully you can interview some people in the more rural areas that have a stronger belief. You know, I have a peripheral contact with. But yeah, people really do believe that there's going to be some kind of breakdown in society, I think. And I don't know, you know, this morning they're saying they're going to extend the unemployment benefits. People resent that. You know, I'm working, why are my taxes paying for people still?
Right.
People who aren't looking for more work. And also the bailout of housing. People really resented that. I heard a lot of people here. And actually people would want to talk to me, you know, on the picket line when we're talking to people want to talk about the bailouts. That's really unfair, hasn't filtered down to them. So I think people are afraid. You know, I'm kind of freaked. I have 4 degrees. Mine is because of health issues, though, that I'm not, it's hard for me to work inside. I get severe asthma when I'm indoors with new conditions. So like the school that I was interning at and that I'm working at, I can only stay inside for a short while before the asthma is really bad. So for me, it's like different. I have a lot more, you know, I could like get so many more jobs than other people, but when you can't even get, I mean, I applied everywhere, you know, places I've picketed before, like Walmart, you know, because of their labor practices, and I couldn't even get an interview. And so I just don't know. The jobs just aren't out there.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's only so many jobs, and so I don't know what people are going to do. So.
Is there any kind of a militia movement in Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. You need to go out the Waldo Farmers Market if you can get out there.
Yeah, I'm going to go out there tomorrow.
You'll see them walking around. Definitely. And Paul can actually tell you about that because he follows the stuff from the what's it called? I give them money. And they fall the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah.
So he actually will know where they are here because he actually reads all that literature. But definitely there is a militia movement. And like I said, it freaked me out because this woman I went to class with, who was really delightful, just was obsessed with it. And, as everyone knows, there's now a shortage of bullets, I mean, the police can't even get them. And they're like, see? You can't even go into Walmart and buy your bullets,
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really blessed. I'm glad I didn't know that the post office wasn't going to pick me up, or else I wouldn't have come, I would have maybe chosen to wait.
Right.
To come and take care of my mom, because now I won't have to regret that, because who knew she would die so quickly. But yeah, I'm like, I don't have to work financially, except we give a lot of money away. We won't starve. We'll have to sell our house, but we won't starve. But as a person who's like defined by work, I was the best mail carrier every place I worked. It's like really freaky to me. So I think it's more than just economics. I think it's like even people who have never, to come to Gainesville from a $25 an hour job and be applying for $8 an hour, even people making $8 an hour, it's important to them that they have that work. Like my son works at the movie theater, and they've he always seems to get 5 days because he'll do maintenance or whatever. But they've got some people working 1 day a week, and then if it's slow, they send them home. Now, a lot of them are students. So Gainesville is particularly hard because of all the students, that, if they're going to hire a waitress, they'd rather hire sounds so bitter, a young, beautiful student than an older person who may have more experience, because that's a lot of their clientele are students. So I get it.
Right. And they can pay them less. And
yeah.
There's a bunch of other
I'm
stuff.
like, yeah. So I was labor organizer of the year in Washington State one year, and I actually took that off my resume a couple of months ago. Paul, I've gotten all these awards for different things, and I thought, I should just take that off.
Walmart is probably not going for that.
I don't know how carefully they're going to look, but I should probably take that off.
Well, I'm really grateful to you for taking so much time to talk to me. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you feel like you would like to?
Okay, let's see. Assault weapons. I guess I didn't have that much. I wasn't this involved. I always worked 60, 70-hour weeks. So I wasn't this involved with any other campaign. But, it seemed to work. I thought it was brilliant, the way they did it. Some of the stuff I kind of bucked against, like, I thought there should have been more dialogue with people that we met up with for the next time. I'm always thinking about, the next campaign or other issues. Right. So that they were definitely into just getting information from them. Don't spend a lot of time. I felt like I could do what I want because I was spending so much more time than other people, and I was way faster. But that it might have been useful now, but maybe not. Maybe that stuff would have all been forgotten when it came down to. I think people, because of the economics, I think everybody's afraid. My little sister in Alabama who owns her own business is afraid. Everybody's afraid they're going to get laid off. That that may override anything else. And I think with Obama and the people in charge of the economic part of it, maybe I just don't understand it well enough, but it really sucks they have the same people. So I just with Clinton, like we were talking about, with the the book that just came out and stuff, that, you know, he does not regret the whole welfare, you know, how that came down. And I know at the time our group was doing, and that group, actually the kind of subcommittee, even though they weren't really committees that worked on the welfare reform, the group that I was involved with in Olympia, you know, there's still tent cities and stuff. I mean, that he does not regret how that came down. And same thing with NAFTA.
Right. Those were huge turning points.
Yeah.
I think, frankly, one of the real turning points in the kind of tenor of national politics in the last 20 years was the Lanny Guinier nomination. When he just let the lie stand and backed down from it, he emboldened a whole different kind of politics, and that's all we've seen ever since.
Wow. So you think it was that point? I hate those politics.
I know. And it's hard to know how we can recover from it.
Yeah. Maybe there's no turning back now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you know, that's why it would be really good. One thing, Pat could have given you names. I really was hoping you could interview some of the older black people from the East, the communities there, because they've been doing stuff a lot of decades here. Right. Actually, Paul should have told you Joel too. Did you hear Joel's name?
Mm-mm.
Joel would be good. I don't think he was as involved in the campaigns. He had health. He had something happen, which they thought was a stroke, but now they found out it wasn't at the time. But yeah, I mean, if you could talk, because they have been in the Gainesville community forever and in rural areas. I really wanted so badly to work in the black communities and also on campus. Mm-hmm. They had young people on campus, right, just because I like their energy. But yeah, that would be interesting if you could
maybe
try to hook in.
Come back and do a second round.
You'll have other people, you know, but maybe we could, you know, if you want to, like, if you do decide to come back, I could try to set up those interviews for you so that you could bang, bang, bang. Which you asked Paul how he did it when he went. He kind of
I'm going to be talking to him later today, so I can get some tips on just the
he really spent a lot of time, but then his were, even though you had set up here because of the Democrat committee, but his was, you know, Paul was always interested in labor, so he could go, you know, to try to connect with labor people, and then after a while, he just had people who would move him on.
Right.
You know, they would call people.
One thing, right.
Yeah. Well, good luck, man. 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 Well, good luck, man.